Yeah, I'm actually probably gonna move that road. I'm gonna start on this one right there. So that's
Far forward.
oh yeah, that's crazy. And what was your name? Carolyn Marble. Nice to meet you. I'm Mark Kavanaugh. This is Rebecca Pease. I got that chair right behind you, don't you?
Okay, thank you.
Planning and zoning building inspector. And then I do, the planning. I'm just a grunt. I'm just a chair mover. I'm just a chair.
Yes, yeah, they'll call you up. I think the chairman will probably take a few minutes at the beginning to explain how it's gonna go. I'm expecting a good turnout. Our commissioners who have. I don't know what else to do about it. The one you're sitting in. Everybody who has to.
I think I'm just gonna set up all these chairs. I have a feeling if we don't, we're gonna need.
You're probably right.
Then, yeah, you made it to the right spot. So all you need to do is just sign it. You don't have to do a public registration. You get a chance to speak anyway. You don't have to, but yeah. This one today, that one. I'm not sure. Let's see. Well, I doubt that. It can go longer if it. How long it would be till yours is up, there's no telling. Typically, we don't have 9 things on like we do this month. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're scheduled from 9 to 10, but it'll end, when it ends. Yes, yep. So then after here, it'll be heard at the Board of Supervisors meeting. Yep. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So just so I can kind of keep it. Thank you. I'm not sure the applicant, Yeah. I just want to be ready. They say if you build it, it will come. How many people we can pack in here today? No. No. We thought about it Friday morning. We thought about bringing some water bottles. I thought you got.
Rebecca, how are you doing? Good, good, thank you. I know it. I know it. How are you? Danny, how are you doing?
What you doing? I hope so.
Hello, Mr. Howard. How are you? Yeah, doing real good. Doing real good.
Boy, mine doing all right?
Oh, he's doing. Oh yeah,
Travis,
awesome.
he's head out fast. Be better.
Yeah.
You better. Appreciate you guys.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Hey, how's it going?
We're gonna have a fun one.
Oh, I
today.
know. I'll still is. I'm just gonna keep move down here.
I have people coming up my house.
Oh, really? Is it for the this one?
Yeah, we were down here getting all the pieces. This one's right here on the phone.
Nothing to set up.
What's that?
Nothing to set up for next month.
I don't think. I don't know. There's some to be set up. Yes. Oh no, I guess not. No.
Morning. How's it going? Well, yourself? All right.
Good morning, gentlemen. Gentlemen,
How you doing? Good.
Jason, Denny swap, duty swap. Nice to meet you.
Morning.
We got assigned seats, so we just gotta.
You're on the end, I think.
Oh, I'm on the air.
That's what I want.
So they move us around all the time.
It's best to be on the edge. How you doing?
You're in my chair.
Oh, look at, I got a soft chair though.
They rotate the soft chairs.
Do they? Nah, it's because they know I'm old and need that.
They do play musical chairs with us. No, I just hang out down here.
Get my glasses out.
Right?
Morning.
Gotta have the cheers.
Oh, dude, it's getting really bad. Flipping. Check my pockets for no weapon.
Only supposed to do that with fear of being frisked.
Yeah.
What's going on,
See
Peter?
if I've ever been frisked. Ah, just in trials. How are you?
I'm here.
Put that phone on silence. Nothing more embarrassing
Still, but
to me, anyways.
some Bridge Boys song come on.
Yeah, it's like, God dang it.
Forgotten what natural farming looks like.
It's that heavy metal one that rocks.
It just grows, and they just bail the roads. And
Then I gotta deal with a personal one too.
I forgot.
I got a neighbor who decided to try to make a cut on his property, a road. And cut into my property and buried a culvert.
So when I was in college,
Without
I
even
radioed for the
Asking
University of
or
Arizona.
just did it.
Just did it.
I'm running this town. I'll do what I want.
We left Bozeman, we would rodeo all those states.
Bad enough that you do that, but then you don't even have the common courtesy to say, hey, what do you think?
Yeah.
Or we're just moving here. What do you
I'm
know
very
about the water
familiar with
runoffs?
the area and
Because there was an arroyo, that's why the culvert was there. So they completely filled in the arroyo. So guess what the water's gonna do?
all over those places. Know some,
Heading your way, man. Ain't nothing wrong with a little lagoon out in front yard.
Exactly. God, just
leave a
drives me
vacation.
crazy. You have some good dogs?
Yeah, he had the one, they had two guys, ours had six labs. Cycle them in.
Hi, Matt.
30%.
Would you hand me that hammer?
Yeah, yeah.
That gavel, just in case this. What did I miss? I might.
Hey, I'm pretty good.
Mr. Kevin.
Oh, again, Mark. Did you get that email this morning? Did you read it?
No, I didn't.
It was quite nice. Hi.
Concrete this morning,
It's kind of,
Brandon?
I so agree with him because
No,
I moved
no
out.
concrete. The weather's cooled off. Now's the time.
Have the world around
Oh,
us,
it's
but
nice this
it's
morning at 5 o'clock this morning. It was really nice
That's the
out.
thing, it's like if you didn't let that happen, then Phoenix would be Safford would still be right
Jesus.
around.
Full house. Yeah, I was worried about parking places.
I had to come back around because it's too wide to get into it.
His property runs too.
It's true, and you understand.
How's the family?
Oh, doing good. Good, yeah.
I'm gonna give this speech today.
But Gene Roberts says, if you want to protect the poverty, you buy the.
I guess I gotta open this up. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about it? Yeah, why not?
Some thick ones in here.
Yeah, look at that.
A lot of people.
I told my boss at the wastewater plant, if shit hits the fan, call me.
They don't want anybody to do anything.
I was gonna bring my whistle in
That's
here.
like an argument between two
It
people.
was.
Man,
There was a
yeah.
lawsuit.
Anything for setup? No. They got Matt Sherrill wasn't the
You're
last.
exactly on point. We don't want to jump too many uses.
let's put 'em on like
but
official.
If it's within a couple of what everything is, it's not a stretch usually.
We got 9 of these guys, huh?
It's not.
We got 9 of these guys today.
Everybody should have their say. in this,
It'll go quick.
But it's still,
Yeah, okay.
just,
If we notice that the most. See the trailer. The house, the ten.
graveyard underneath all of them.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
And it's just like, they just let it go and,
Well, it's almost
And
time.
we're not so different. I mean, you can still drive down streets and see about exactly what you just described, all in one street.
so and I, like I was laughing, I stopped and when I travel now, I think about RV park. Stayed in this really nice one outside of Denver, city. And it had concrete pads for the trailers, but everything else was down. It was all gravel and it was really nicely done. And all of the ones I stayed with were not paved. Stop back all the way back to south side.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, but every part.
Yeah. I think think that's where some of ours have gotten a little let down with the, keep them cleaned up and then
Look
they're
at
okay.
Thunderbird, when they put that in, they signed things that it would never. But then, the guy, yeah,
That's the hardest thing.
Getting worried.
You've been very busy, lady. Holy moly.
it's not a pig.
At 40 words a minute, it would have took me a while to type it.
I'll just leave it out for this.
All right, well, that was that. I can't see without these things anymore.
It'll be good.
These are so hard to, some of them want to speak and some of them don't. Yeah, because they're opposed.
I like this song.
9 o'clock, let's rock.
She's good, isn't she?
She does good, yeah.
I did, yes. Yeah, I was gonna say that, cause I didn't see anything till you sent. Oh, gotcha. We're fine.
Uh-oh, uh-oh. Just leaving there. Third time.
Third or fourth maybe. What can you really do with it?
Huh?
What can you really do with it? It's just tucked right there in between everything. It's the one by the
Is that?
Arizona.
Oh. Yeah. Not much.
That's
Can't put a house. You know, one of the side of the houses like the one up in the Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Thank all of you for attending our today's planning and zoning meeting. Appreciate the public interest. Looks like we have a quorum. Have commissioners had an opportunity to review the minutes? Seeking
Yes.
an approval.
I move we approve them as submitted.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We will now start our public hearing. Well, let me just have a brief moment here. Really appreciate all of you being here. We're all here with our interests in mind. One of the things that has been pointed out in this meeting previously, and I'll state it again today, is that we, in America, we all have properties and we expect to have property rights. We're all concerned with the value of our properties. A lot of them have nice views, especially in this valley. There's a nice mountain to look at. And we sometimes get concerned with development and the community growing up and blocking our view, or perhaps we're on a well and we're concerned that we might run out of water. And I will state that if you are concerned with your view and you don't want it blocked, then you need to buy as far as you can see. so that that will not happen. And likewise, if you are worried about running out of water with your well, it's Arizona, it's a legitimate concern. You need to buy the properties next to you so that you can control how much water is consumed on them. And you have rights to your properties, so does your neighbors. And so now we'll go into our hearings. Keep those in mind. Item number 4, SUP 24-01, APN 104-13-090, 0.44 acres. A request was made for a special use permit. The request was made by Morgan Broderick. Mr. Broderick is requesting for this parcel to have all the same rules and setbacks as CM zoning, since it is unusable as a residential property for the purpose of more climate-controlled storage units. Site address is west of Fertizona, next to and including existing self-storage south of Palmer Lane and Highway 70.
Since Mark took some minutes, I'm going to take some minutes. Please turn your phones off or put them on silent. Also, be nice. And please don't call out from the audience. If you want something said and heard, come to the microphone at the proper time so that we can get it recorded and on the record. I'll quit there. Our first thing for Mr. Broderick is I want to clarify in case it wasn't clear in the written notice. Mr. Broderick would like to extend his storage to the west from where that yellow conditional use permit is. What we're doing today is a special use or a special use permit. The difference in a special use permit and a conditional use permit is that special goes with the land and is sellable. Conditional is not. The next owner would have to reapply. Mr. Broderick wants to change the conditional part to permanent or special, and the parcel to the west of it will also be special. What that will do is allow Mr. Broderick at some point in the future to sell that without having to worry about whether the next owner can operate it. And that's where we're at. And if Mr. Broderick is here, if he'd like to come up and speak, he's welcome to. And if you guys have questions for me instead, that's okay too.
Is there anyone here to speak to this? Yes.
Good morning. I think it's pretty cut and dry. Mr. McGoy explained it perfectly, so I'd be happy to answer any questions about it, but as we stated, it's pretty unusable, not usable as a rental property or as a residential property. And unfortunately, I can't go to the CM zoning because that requires 1 acre and I am landlocked there. So the only logical use for that is a commercial property or storage unit. So that's why I'm applying.
And to clarify, you are Mr. Broderick?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Okay, does the commission have any questions, Mr. Broderick?
Pretty cut and dried.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody here opposed to speak against this from the public? I don't see anyone.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this.
Is there any further discussion on this item? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Can I just clarify that your motion was to send a favorable recommendation to the board?
Yeah.
Okay. And for those of you out here, this is a recommendation. They make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors who will make the final decision in a couple of weeks.
Okay, you just heard me ask if there was anyone to speak. for or against this issue. If you wanted to speak, you will have put your name and filled out one of these papers back there at that table by the door. And those papers will have been brought to me, and those are the people that want to have public comment. And then as Mr. McGoy stated earlier, you will only address Mr. McGoy or this commission. You won't have discussions amongst yourselves out there. Thank you. Next item, number 5, REZ 905-24, APN 106-29-105, 4.33 acres. A request was made to rezone from A General and AR Agricultural Residential to RM Multifamily Residential. The requester is Janet Alder. Ms. Alder would like to rezone from a single family to multi-family for apartment complexes. Site address east of Highway 191 with a portion of the parcel running along Camino de Casablanca. Mr. McGoy.
Okay, this is, this was brought to you before and pulled and is back on the agenda. And Mrs. Alder is here to tell you what she wishes to do. In your packet, you have letters from the neighbors and a map that shows where they live and their relation distance-wise from said property. And I think we got another letter on this yesterday, which we did not supply to you, having this many items on the agenda. We got letters on a couple of these cases, but our notice says if they're not to us in time to get them to you in your packet, so they had to have been here a week ago for you to see them. If somebody wants to, we can give those to you, but they're the same pretty much word for word as what you did get in your packet. So Mrs. Alder, if you'd like to come up and address the commission.
Please state your name for the record.
My name's Janet Alder. Good morning, commissioners and members of the board and attendees. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to take a few minutes to speak about our request to change the zoning on our lot that's 4.33 acres from agricultural residential to multifamily. As a licensed real estate agent in the state of Arizona, and more specifically in the Gila Valley area, I know firsthand the challenges that buyers are having. Many who would like to own their own homes are not able to afford them because of rising interest rates and the low inventory of homes in their price range. Because of this, there's a great demand for rentals, and the demand exceeds the supply in many areas. We are proposing to build 3 fourplexes on this parcel. Our plan shows that each apartment would be approximately 1,045 square feet with 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, and built in a manner that would not detract from any of the surrounding properties, but instead add to the beauty of the area. We are asking for your consideration on our request. Thank you.
Does the commission have any questions for Ms. Alder?
Ms. Alder, I was reading through some of the letters, and I remember I read in there that you had sold them that land and basically had offered to them a 2.5 acre parcel and a community of like with the rest of the development out there. Is that true?
Okay, I'm not understanding the question. We had offered to sell who the property?
One of the letters had mentioned that you had sold them that 2.5 acre piece that they built their home on, and the proposal of the rest of the development was going to be 2.5 acre pieces for residential use. Is that correct?
So that was part of the subdivision. Our land and our property and parcels are not part of the subdivision. Buena Vista Estates.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions this time? Thank you.
Is the only entrance to get in there, is that on the Camino del Casa de Blanca to that road?
It is,
Is that
yes.
the entrance to get in there?
Okay, thank you. We'll have three.
Can I tag on to that?
Yes, please.
The pink or, I don't know, salmon color there is the subdivision that was docked to. And this is outside the subdivision, but is accessed through the subdivision. But it is not part of the subdivision, so there was no promise that anything outside the subdivision would be 2.5 acre single family.
Okay, I have three individuals that have requested to speak to this. Carolyn Marble. Go ahead and take podium, state your name.
I'm Carolyn Marble. I live at the end of Camino de Casablanca, that big weird shaped one. Okay, my husband and I bought the first lot that was sold in the Buena Vista Ranches subdivision in January of 1997 and built our home. We moved in on July 8th of 97. And we bought the lot because it was the most private. Located at the end of Camino de Casablanca, unlikely to have a lot of traffic near us. It was and still is a place of peace and quiet where we only hear an occasional dog, goat, or chicken. Most of the chickens are ours. And we cannot see another home from our front window, even in winter when the trees have lost all their little leaves. Our purchase was prompted by the deed restrictions in the subdivision governing the subdivision of, they could not subdivide lots and therefore the maintenance of the rural nature of this area. These restrictions included no multiple housing units and pretty much ensured the quiet enjoyment of our homes without concern of temporary residents who do not take pride in ownership or concern for the area in which they live. After my husband passed away, I remarried and convinced my new guy that we should live in my house and sell his, which was on the highway. Neither of us want to move from our home. I know that how rentals work. As a former real estate agent in Arizona, I was the only property management company in this area for over 10 years. I dealt with the best and the worst possible tenants and know how tenants can affect a neighborhood and the property in which they live. We do not want this statement and this element affecting our sense of safety in our area. We feel like it would decrease our property values. And among other things, I realize that this zoning request lies outside of the subdivision boundaries. However, it will require the use of our streets, as there is only one entry into the entire subdivision, thus impacting every home therein. Our first concern was that 3 new wells, of course, as every new well drilled close to us affects our water quality. We drilled a second well on our place and it dropped the first TDS by 500 points. So you can see that drilling wells does affect your water quality. The second concern is what 2 huge septic systems will do. Will they cause pollution of our water? The third is the excess traffic it will produce, increasing the likelihood of increased accidents, especially since a number of current residents are senior citizens like myself. And will the roads then be paved? Because when it rains, Camino de Casablanca turns into a real mud puddle, and you're sliding all over the road. There has been an issue with water runoff across Camino de Casablanca at the corner where the street turns to run east, right where the proposed apartments would be built. It has caused the street to wash out several times. I know some work has been done to lessen the possibility, but has this issue actually been considered? As my husband says, it's a muddy mess. So we feel that 2 or 3 single-family homes would be better built there than have a mess of 12 apartments. Thank you.
Thank you. Brent Ricks. Oh, do you have one? Did anybody have any questions for him? Okay, Mr. Ricks.
Good morning, Commissioner, and all the group of commissioners. My name is Brent Ricks. I don't know if these mics can be turned up anymore, but it's hard to hear back there. 2 years ago, we decided to move from a residential neighborhood in Tucson to Buena Vista Ranches in Graham County, several miles south of Safford, where each lot is 2.5 acres in size. We purchased 2 lots, and we're excited to finally have some space, and to live by other landowners who appreciated the openness and relative quietness of living in the country. We wanted to live in a low-density area, and Buena Vista Ranches was a great fit for that. Excuse me. After investing a large portion of our resources to have a custom home built there, we felt like we had accomplished our dream. However, we were recently disappointed when we found out that a 12-unit, 2-story apartment complex was being built in our neighborhood. This complex would bring 30 to 50 people into our area. These renters would be using the entrance road into Buena Vista Ranches, which road is adjacent to our property. Once these apartments are built, it will be easier to have the land adjacent to the apartments rezoned to build even more apartments. And I assume you have the map of the apartment complex proposed. So there is an open space here that goes out to the developer's private land on the east side, on the west side, which could even be used to, it could be rezoned and even build more apartments. So yeah, once these apartments are built, it'd be easier to have the land adjacent to the apartments rezoned to build even more apartments. Because of the transient nature of apartment dwellers, we will have to deal with more noise, light at night, and possibly an increase in crime in our area. The nearest land that is zoned as high density is several miles closer to Safford in a residential neighborhood. I'm not against apartments since there is a housing shortage in the valley, but high-density apartments should not be built where low-density lots are the norm. Buena Vista Estates and the land adjacent to it, including the lot in question, are zoned as agricultural residential with a minimum lot size of 2 acres. Buena Vista Estates consists of single-family homes built on lots that are at least 2.5 acres in size. To rezone 4 acres of land adjacent to the Buena Vista ranches from agricultural residential to multifamily residential would create something called spot zoning, since high-density multifamily residential zoning does not exist in our rural area for miles. According to a lawyer friend of ours, Ralph Pugh in Maricopa County, who specializes in land use, including rezoning. Spot zoning is generally not done and not considered good planning practice and is not favored in zoning laws. Section 1.2.1 of the Graham County Comprehensive Plan states that the Planning and Zoning Commission shall make recommendations to the Board of Supervisors for any matter relating to the development of the county, with the general purpose of guiding and accomplishing a coordinated and harmonious development of the area of jurisdiction. One definition of harmonious is acting together to a common end and agreeing in action or feeling. I was wondering if all the people that are here for item number 5, this rezoning request, could you raise your hand if you are in favor of this request? And could you raise your hand if you are?
You address the commission? You address the commission or Mr. McGoy?
I'm sorry?
You address this commission or Mr. McGoy? You don't have sidebar with?
Okay, I'm sorry. I had the understanding that not everybody can speak, so they could show their.
Everybody that wants to speak and fills out one of these papers is welcome to speak. No one is disallowed to speak.
And how can they show their opposition to this or their?
They will fill out one of these papers that are back there available to everyone.
Even if they don't speak?
They can request to comment or to not comment on this form.
All right. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Is this a county road? This is not a county road, is it?
Well, okay, what's this name?
Question.
I'm sorry, it is county maintained. I'll follow my own rule. Come to the mic.
Okay, thank you.
But it's not a county road, it's just maintained.
No, it is an adopted subdivision. Those are county roads.
Okay.
Yes.
They adopted them without, they allowed the subdivision without being paved because of the size of the lots, but we do grade them and they are ours.
Okay, so what would be the difficulty in extending that road to another area of Grand County?
I don't understand the question.
I'm not sure myself.
I was thinking the property to the east there, where the road ends, to the east, the other side.
So they'll have access to this new development.
My question is, if the property out to the east of their development, it started to grow, do those county roads keep going to the east?
Will you turn on the floodplain, Mark? There's a huge wash right there. Nobody, I mean, unless somebody builds a bridge, we're not going there.
I have one other individual that asked to speak to this, but I cannot make out the name. So if you know you filled out a request to speak to item number 5, you come forward. We'll dive into some of these other questions after.
Yeah, come on up and,
Yes, state your name.
give your name and address.
Name and address.
Have your say.
My name is Greg Lorang. I live at Lot 15, Buena Vista Estates. We're just to the east of the proposed development. Beth and Brent did a great job of saying pretty much everything I was planning to say. Basically, I'm here to oppose the rezone. My wife and I submitted a letter and a petition with about 35 signatures of the folks that live around this development. And the response was almost identical to everyone we talked to, and that was, we do not want an apartment complex in this area. We understand the need for additional housing in our community, but this apartment complex does not belong here. We bought land here and built homes here because it's an area of large lots, single-family homes. We love our elbow room and our peace and quiet. Our concerns are, as they noted, traffic increase and the dust and the noise and the litter that comes along with it. We're concerned about the water usage. If this complex were to expand, there's enough room there, it looks to me, like to double or triple this project if they went that direction. If with our usage in Arizona and Safford specifically, if the size of this development tripled, the development would use about 20,000 gallons a day. That equates to about 7 million gallons a year. So it's not insignificant. And I have personally owned and managed an apartment complex several years, and I did my best to screen tenants. I background check, credit check, and a personal interview with each and every one of them. And I still experience vandalism, destruction of property, theft, excessive noise, and drug dealing. And while these behaviors are more the exception than the rule, I believe it's the transient nature of tenant housing that brings these negative aspects with it. And my own experience was that it was usually a relative or a boyfriend or girlfriend that moved in the apartment with them, and then the trouble began. These negative elements and behaviors do not exist in our neighborhood, and we don't want them here. We urge you to recommend denial of this rezoning, and to me, the most compelling reason is the overwhelming sentiment of the folks that live around here. We want to protect and conserve our property values and the quality of life we have worked hard for. Thank you.
Susan Varney.
Good morning. I'm Susan Varney. I live at 9743 South Calle de Buena Vista. I live just above the Marbles. My husband and I, we moved out from Atlanta, and we were in a small town of Roswell, Georgia, and it was very beautiful. And then the high-density housing started to be built. And we were personally affected with everything that was stated by the previous gentleman, with crime that went up, and it personally affected us with break-ins. The neighborhood became more accessible to crime because it was convenient. We moved out here. I grew up mostly in Arizona. I love the desert. I love the peace and quiet. I love the vistas. It's gorgeous where we live. And we love our neighbors. They're quiet, and they really are respectful of one another's privacy, and we keep to each other. But the one thing I have noticed is the harmony that is in our neighborhood, where if something is amiss, we do speak with one another. This has not happened here. There has been much discord, and it's been very disruptive and stressful for everyone. I don't really know Janet very well. I do not wish any harm or anything, or have bad or ill will towards their family or anything. I am just in great disagreement to this. We want our neighborhood to be a neighborhood of single family homes, and to not feel that our piece of heaven that we moved from the East Coast all the way over here to be taken away. Thank you.
William Scrivener? Oh, you're quite right. Thank you. Okay. Okay, I declined to speak. Sorry, my mistake. Carrie Ricks.
Good morning, Commissioners. Everything that was said, I agreed to, and I felt like I needed to sign to get up here and say I am against this, and so I needed to have my voice heard. One thing that was mentioned just once, Susan did, I feel super safe where we're at. Even if we forget to lock the doors, or if my husband's out of town for long stints of time, or when he would go out for work. I think that might change. If this happens to go through, I wouldn't feel as safe. And my husband was Brent Ricks, and so you also heard from him how I feel. But I'm against it. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, give Janet Alder opportunity to address the concerns, any of the concerns she feels to address.
Well, first of all, I would like to say that I live in this neighborhood too, and I care very much about the people who live in our neighborhood. I feel like we have friends in our neighborhood. I feel like that we do care about each other. This is not in any way meant to cause issues in our neighborhood, which I hear, and I totally feel that your concerns are validated. We have very many of the same. I do want you to know that we have done a lot of research about a lot of these things and concerns that you have voiced today. One, as far as property values, I did some research. I've tried to find out if there's anything specifically that says anything about that, and I have not been able to find anything. I've talked to builders in the area who have built multifamily in a residential areas, and they tell me the same thing, that there's very little, if any, evidence of proof about property values. As far as the roads, and Mr. Bagoy addressed that, they are county roads. The septic systems, we have talked to the county health and we have showed them our plans, and they have conferred that what we have stated is within their regulations. We would not be doing anything that was against that to harm water or anyone's safety as far as water is concerned. As far as traffic, we understand that there is going to be more. We're trying to mitigate the entrance on that road, as well as there are many lots in that subdivision that are not yet developed. I know some of the owners do own more than one lot, but there are some that have never been developed at this point. So, and some of those are right on that road, which could be developed, which would cause more traffic as well. We know that that road does have some drainage problems, and that would need to be addressed with us or the county, however that is done. And as far as crime, we definitely do not want to bring in crime at all. I don't know if any of you are aware of the type of leases that are being done in the Copper Canyon area for their rentals, but they're very, very strict, and we would be vetting all of our, and doing background checks and those types of things on anyone who might be living there. Do any of you have any other questions for me?
I have one. Okay, so when the lots were originally set up, they were all at 2.5 acres. And these people bought those assuming that there would not be any more development other than just a house. So would you be opposed to just going with houses? Why apartments?
That's a good question. We have talked about the other types of things with the homes. We would understand that we would have to we'd have to have a division of those 4.5 acres into parcels for that. But I guess we were thinking that apartments might be a good option for that land without having to do that.
Okay.
You know, it's been stated her property is not part of the subdivision.
This isn't part of it.
It is not part of the subdivision, and therefore it does not, she's not asking to change any zoning in the subdivision.
It's outside.
It's outside of the subdivision.
But it's currently zoned for houses.
So
she's wanting to.
My question. Could you do, because it's 4 acres, could you do 4 houses and rent without having to change? Yeah, there's other options.
I'll point out that the highway is very near there, and the county typically on the highway corridor will put commercial or even light industrial or there's a lot of things that can go right there on the highway. This, not positive, but this appears to probably adjoin the property that adjoins the highway. So they could have anything, they have to come in and ask for zoning, whoever owns that. But typically the county is pretty favorable to, you drive up and down the highway and you see your gas stations and your convenience markets and a lot of other, restaurants right off the highway, along with some mechanic shops and some manufacturing and some other things. So that's going to be right there someday.
Someday.
As the community grows. Yeah. You just look at the highway we already have a little closer into town. And some of it's residential, but a lot of it's not.
I've got a question. This might be more of a question for Steve. You might know, Janet. I'm not sure if you do, you can answer. Is the closest sewer and municipal water, is it the prison right now? Or do you know?
I don't know that.
Okay, I'll ask Steve.
It is.
There is sewer and water at the corner of Swift Trail and 191, but nothing south of there.
Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say nothing. There is a little bit in Thunderbird Hills, maybe as far as Lee Trail, but it doesn't go beyond Quail Trail. It doesn't go to Quail Trail. And sewer would have to be pumped because it would be uphill to hit it.
Steve, under the way it's zoned now, you could go in there on 4 acres and build 4 houses without changing the zoning?
No. I had Mark pull up the zoning. That's what your zoning looks like. It's AR 2-acre minimum on the piece she's working on, as well as the subdivision. They're both the same zoning number. That piece of it just was not included in the subdivision. So that 4-acre piece could only be split into 2 pieces and build 2 houses on it under the current zoning.
Steve, I got a question. It looks like there's issues with the road right there on the corner with the water runoff. Would there be a need for a water runoff survey because it is close to the flooding plain on that property?
That's Are you talking on the east end?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, just in general, just the landowner to do that, to just see what the water runoff is.
And unless the grader operator is having problems fixing the road every time he comes through there, I mean, he's gonna tell his boss, hey, we need to do something about this, but it's under their supervision at this point. If it, I mean, if the neighbors came in and say, hey, this needs to be fixed, that's what they would look at. The county engineer would be the next person out there.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions for Mrs. Alder?
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions, other questions for Mr. McGoy?
Or amongst yourself. If you guys are thinking something, please say it. I know that after our last meeting, there were some things that, I mean, there were some of you came and asked me questions after the meeting that probably should have been asked during the meeting. So don't be scared to ask a question. If you wonder, so does somebody else.
My question, that's my question, is that it was zoned for 2.5 acres, and we're actually changing the zoning.
It's zoned 2 acre minimum.
2 acre.
But I think all the lots are 2.5 or larger in the subdivision, but the zoning of that piece, the piece he's got highlighted, Mr. Humphrey's piece to the north of it that's not in the subdivision, and that piece are all part or mostly part of. See, there's a piece in the bottom of that that's not zoned in, it's 1 acre. So that bottom piece could be 1 acre lots, the piece above could be 2, but there's probably not enough to make 2 pieces out of the 2 acre piece. So, I mean, out of the piece that's in the district.
Do things with their property, but the people who already bought and under the current zoning have an expectation for it to stay the way that. No, but the upper part is zoned 2.5 acres. It's split, it's only half of it's zoned, the other half of it isn't zoned, right?
Right.
That's the problem.
And that's what she's asking for, is to change from the 2 acre minimum zoning to the multifamily housing. And she would be zoning that lower part that's not zoned anything to multifamily. That's her ask. And if I'm not clarifying that correctly, just ask more questions, because.
There's no other alternative for putting a road in from 191?
That would be a question for her.
Oh.
Her house is right here.
But she accessed that.
Yeah. And it does have legal access the way she's wanting to go in. That would, I'm ad-libbing here because I don't know, but I would guess that if she tried to access it from the highway, that would cause the same issue that the gentleman last month had in San Jose, where he's got to do a traffic study with ADOT and possibly to put in turning lanes and stuff that has already been addressed at this entrance, but not at a next one. So that may be the reason that she's not going there. I don't know.
Are there any more questions for Mr. McGoy? Probably. Do you have any, does anyone want to discuss anything with amongst the commission?
I do. It seems like a lot of the concern, the traffic, you know, the extra traffic, plus this is a community of people, and they're not sure, they're even in rentals, and they're concerned about, you're uncomfortable about who's gonna rent those apartments and come and right by their home. This is kind of what I'm thinking of.
I agree with that statement, you know, and also, you know, they're using a communal road for the access to this property. So, I mean, that ties it in with that community as well.
Exactly.
I'm impressed with the, how many people are opposed to this. I'm impressed that the community around has rallied around this.
But we also need more housing.
Yeah.
And we are moving that direction. When I moved out there, I was the only one in my neighborhood, and there's probably at least 60 to 80 back there behind me on 2.5 acres.
My concern is that, like I said, is the people bought with zoning in mind, with what they think is gonna stay that way, and then somebody comes along and wants to change that zoning location. It's not like the desert to the south of it that's not zoned. If I buy a house, a piece of property, and I build a big house on it, and I look around and I'm zoned all around residential, and somebody wants to put a commercial thing in next to me, I'm not gonna be too happy. I mean, it's different if they were out in the middle of nowhere and there was no zoning.
And yes, that is her property, and she has her right to build what she wants on it.
When they bought, that was out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
It really was.
Right.
It was really.
But it was zoned for 2.5
For 2.5 acres.
But that's why they have, that's why they have different zones.
Yeah.
It's because at one point, this valley was all mesquite trees, whatever that zone was. And as communities and cities grow, things change. And that's why there's a zoning commission, is because things don't stay the same forever. Now, we're, here to make sure that it changes and that we don't throw a hog farm into the middle of
For
the
the
neighborhood.
good of the community and Grand County, and that's what we're here, is
We're
to
gonna weigh a
kind of
whole,
protect the.
we're weighing a whole lot of things.
Yeah, take apartment out and say hot farm.
Yeah.
Or
But they're not asking-
sand gravel.
Yeah.
They're not asking for a hog farm. It's more. So, that's more, unless you're, pretty much know where you're at, then we have some more.
How do you guys all feel?
I'm pro-growth in this community because we need growth. But there's places for multifamily and there's places that multifamily shouldn't be. My opinion, this is not a place for multifamily. I believe multifamily should be connected to city water, city sewer, and be able, the city has the volume to keep up with that stuff. Nobody knows the depths of when the water is going to dry up and when the water is not going to dry up. Nobody knows how the sewage is going to flow once it gets leached into the ground. And that's where I stand on it. There's places for multifamily and there's places multifamily shouldn't be, and I don't think in a 2.5 acre private development is a place for multifamily. I am 100% for multifamily in the community where multifamily should be. That's where I stand.
Well said.
All right, calling for the question.
I'll make a motion that we deny this.
Unfavorable?
Unfavorable.
I'll second that.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. This same item will be heard at the supervisors meeting. I don't know the date.
It's the first Monday or October 7th, first Monday in October.
Okay. Thank you for your participation. If you don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting, you're welcome to be excused. Okay.
I was gonna make more comment, but what he covered was perfect, you know. My thing is, something like that needs to be infrastructure. Infrastructure has to be.
It's got to be.
Not the fact.
If you want to visit, take it out in the lobby, please. Okay.
I'll take the bullets today, I guess.
Item number 6, REZ 907-24. APN 109-56-034, 10 acres. A request was made to rezone from A, general, to AM, general manufacturing. The requester is Dara Pierce. Ms. Pierce would like to rezone to come into compliance as the property is being used. Site address, the end of Hancock Meadows Way, west of Pima, south of Klondike Road. This property is being used as a kennel. Mr. McGoy.
This is a zoning compliance issue that we got a complaint on, and we went to this property owner and asked them to become compliant. I have not been to the property, so if you have specific questions about that, I may ask Mark to answer them, but this is a case where, if I'm not mistaken, other than the zoning, they are compliant. Is that your distances from property lines and stuff that a kennel has to be they are compliant. They came to Graham County from Greenlee County or New Mexico, went to our dog pound and asked, are there any regulations for a kennel? And we're told no, so they built one. Now, we went to them and said, yes, there are rules. So that's where we're at, and that's why we're here.
Well, it's already there then.
Is Dara Pierce here to speak? Please.
Come on up.
Come up, state your name, address, what your plans are.
This pointer's here.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Dara Pierce. I moved here from New Mexico. I grew up in Burden. I went to school in Duncan. My entire family lives here now. Took a really long time to get me over here, but they finally did. I raise Australian Shepherds. We raise service and therapy dogs. I have dogs all over the world in all 50 states and about 15 international countries. I started raising dogs in 2007. This has been my sole source of income and my doing every day since 2012. I have 2 boys that are 4 and 3 that I have sole physical and legal custody of, so I have 2 young boys to support. As this gentleman mentioned to you, before I ever moved here, I told my family, I said, hey, we need to figure out if this is somewhere that I can be, because I have a pretty big operation. So we went about trying to figure out how to make sure that I was not in a non-compliance with anything, and it took me about 3 months to move here. About halfway through it, we got to meet Mark. And he educated us on what we were not in compliance with, and so I'm here today to ask you to rezone the property to come into compliance with my kennel.
Does anybody have any questions?
It's not going to be a hog farm, so.
No, sir.
Dara, how many dogs do you have at any given time on average, would you say?
I have about 50 adults, and I will have anywhere from 5 to 10 litters at any given time. I try not to have any when it's hot. So most of the time I have them in the spring and in the fall to winters. And,
right.
We usually have a place by the time they're 8 weeks old, so.
Sure.
So when you say placed?
Placed in homes.
In their homes?
In their homes with the buyers.
Or with somebody that does training for?
Correct. Usually we sell to people that are looking for companion animals or to train as service, like sell prospects, to train as service dog prospects. So they will take those dogs and raise them into the age that they're able to train them for any specific purpose.
Quite a selection. Yeah.
Any other questions this time? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have one individual has requested to speak in support. Mike Pierce.
Well, good morning. As you know, I'm Mike Pierce. I'm the one that purchased the property. Also, I'm Dara's father. And as she said, we worked real hard to get her over to this place. We moved to this area. Our other daughters live here in this area, and we've made this our home. We support the communities. And along with Dara, we have horses out there. We buy a lot of local hay. We buy all the feed for her animals locally. So we're supporting our local economy. And we didn't come in with, you know, trying to bring in outside sources for those things. We wanted to be part of the community. And all I'd ask is I ask for vote in favor of this rezoning. Can I answer any questions?
Where do you live at in comparison?
I live in Pima.
Okay.
I have another daughter who lives in Pima, one lives in Central, and Dara lives just outside of Pima. So we moved over here, our kids are in school here, grandkids, I mean, you know, so we become part of the community. And this is just part. She has 2 young boys that we plan, if this works, we plan on raising them right here, them going to school here and being part of the community as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
It seems like you have business already going, that they just need to come in compliance, which will bring into a lot of that. To go through zoning.
I agree. I commend her on her success thus far, and she didn't know. I think if she had known, she'd have been sitting here a couple years ago prior to purchase, but she just didn't know about the zoning issue, and I think this is the type of stuff the community needs. It's not in the city limits. It makes sense to me.
I want to clarify something before you go any further, that I think I said we had a complaint which initiated Mark's trip out there. That's not correct. We had somebody come by and say, can they do that there? So that's probably why there's not somebody here in opposition.
But there are other kennels in the area. I'm wondering if they know this.
I know of one other that we've just informed.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. McGoy? Discussion amongst ourselves.
No.
I make a motion that we forward this with a favorable recommendation to the board.
I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Thank you.
Thank you. That too will be heard at the October 7th board meeting.
Item number 7, REZ 908-24, APN 105-46-027B, 2.7 acres. A request was made to rezone from A General to RE Residential Recreation. The requester is Frank and Karen Fox. The Foxes request zoning change to allow them to operate a business at their location. Site address is south of Central Road in Central, west of Highway 70, east of Cemetery Road. This property is being used as a bed and breakfast and event venue. Whoever would like to speak to their plans here, Foxes?
Let me start with
Okay.
what I know about it. And this is another one that, this came about while we were doing our mining and gravel operations, but This is another one that we've asked them to get in compliance. And there are 2 more that we're working on that you heard the Star Barn already, and then there's another one in Solomon that we know of. And anyway, we're just trying to get everybody into compliance. So that's why they're here, is because we asked them to come. So they're operating a business. I think it's a successful business, but they don't have all the right paperwork to do that. So we'd like to go in that direction. Go ahead, Karen, come on up.
I'm Karen Fox. This is new for me, thank you. It's an interesting process. I'd like to address also the complaint and the concerns of the residents. They're equally ours, and so we stand in solidarity with them. There's some traffic concerns, some noise concerns, and some lighting concerns, but they're ours, and because they're ours as residents, and we use this bed and breakfast as our own residents as well, we're on site during this activity when there are guests there. I do have a question in our request for the zoning, in a distinction between Airbnb and what ours is that sets us apart. My understanding currently is Airbnb, there's any number of homes of personal residences that use a particular room to rent out for a guest that comes through, and there's usually a maximum number of days that they're permitted to stay if they're in compliance, say with Airbnb or whatnot. Is there a required zone change for that versus ours where we're on site and we have opportunity to redirect that traffic that is coming through to our local small businesses as we've sought to do? Is there a different zoning request required for those residences or just ours?
Mr. McGoy would answer that.
Uncomplicated.
I'm not sure I know the answer to that. I know that the zoning would be required for an event venue, regardless of whether they rent any rooms out. Legislation is currently changing in the state of Arizona, making it where you cannot disallow rentals. And you, in large metropolitan areas, you can't even tell somebody that they can't build a additional housing unit for a rental. So this is going to play out in the next couple of years in the legislature. It may change what they can and can't do, but at this time, this just makes her legal for what she is doing, and that's as far as I'm willing to dig into that. I mean, I can look for more answers, but I don't have them.
My experience is that the codes, covenants, and restrictions on a property restrict Airbnb rather than the county.
To address the concerns of the event venue, because we are a smaller residence and a historic residence, not I guess registered, but it is the first home in the Gila Valley to receive electricity, as we understand, and that road, there's a lot of Layton descendants that tie into Christopher Layton, both Safford residents through one polygamist wife and whatnot. It's historical, and there's a lot of people that have come there, and so we have had those events. We've learned how many is too many, how many is taxing on this subject, how many is taxing on our little cardinals and hawks that all of us neighbors share and adore and all think are our own. So because we're on site, it's personal, and we're trying to be mindful that the stars stay most visible and the views stay most visible. I appreciated the Clough Spring and the future of that development and what that looks like for them if they're stepping into building right next to us, how that impacts the property value. I believe because of the historic nature of the home that would be restricted. Not only because of lack of parking, and that was a complaint I'd like to address, but because of the nature of the home, it's delicate. There's a granary that's late 1800s, so we're real careful with what we allow there and how many we allow there and how many is too many to disrupt that, as well as the liabilities that we don't want to assume with that. And so we've tried to use the same cautions where we have the same neighborly concerns there. But to address the issue of traffic, my husband measured on either side, and there is ample room for first responders, the commercial trucks that are already coming through. We've actually had to limit and restrict where we can do parts of our business that's closest to the road because of the noise level already there. You cannot have a dinner conversation and not have to yell. And that's just currently the situation, but in the future, I can see where the concern is that would be increased. But we've had a neighbor call and thank us for actually reducing some of the speeders that round from Highway 70. They're almost at 100 miles an hour by the time they're reaching our home, 6 houses off the highway. So I feel those concerns and I feel that anxiety, and we're not wanting to increase that or disrupt that, but to also address that collectively as a business and resident. Thank you.
How many people do you
We-
have at your
Thank you.
venues when you have a,
The maximum we would, the maximum we have, yes. We had a wedding in the back orchard, and that was up to about 75 people, and that was too many, and we determined no. The question, and we go, it's zoned for agriculture, but was, can the tractor not collect their hay during our ceremony? We're like, no, this is what we do here. So we were protective of that, saw that wasn't a fit, determined that that was not an area where we could do that. The home itself is 7-bedroom, 4-bath, and so luxury numbers are about 14 to 20, and then you get some families. You have youth groups that want to patron Temple and other businesses here that are coming through. You get up to about 30 bodies. But the weddings, we wanted to cap it at 150 and bring in the porta-johns. We didn't want that taxing on the property. But trying to look at the traffic that parked out front and the chaos that ensued, we had to reduce that number and reduce what we would try to manage.
Need to rent the Airbnb in order to have a?
No, those.
Okay, so they're separate.
Naturally, by some coming in for a wedding, they're also needing housing or.
And that works out for you.
And so it's complementary.
But if I want to come over and have a party, I don't have to have that.
No, we've had book launches, we've had business meetings.
Right now, it's just
Yeah.
the
So
parking in the venue, how big that is, and if there's room, and that's the complaints.
the most common venue and common requests that we've had are for groups about in 30 that can't necessarily get the women's club and are looking for an affordable venue at a smaller. I get those calls and requests weekly for housing, permanent housing, for Airbnb housing, or mine workers that maybe only need 3 days a week that are coming through that can't find housing even amongst the Airbnb community. And so we were trying to meet those needs as well as redirect and use our local, our mission there is farm to table. And so we patron 5-Star Ranch and Central Harvest Farms right there in Central across the highway and tried to increase our small business revenue.
If you're having a event.
Yes, ma'am.
Happening in there, is it enclosed, or is it outside, or is it both?
It's indoor and outdoor and not enclosed. There's a big open barn and an open courtyard. There is fencing and natural barriers between the lots of those that had concern and formalized it here today, so they'll probably address that. But are there any other questions I can answer?
I might have missed it, but how long have you been in business already?
Loosely 2 years. When we purchased it, it was marketed and on YouTube video and remodeled to be income property by Bryce Willis, but we purchased it with, I don't know the realtor office, Randy Pozo, but Keyhole Property, and so we bought it with the understanding that it was prepared to go forward, how it was remodeled, vanities in the room and different little things in water, so it was a technicality. I apologize for not knowing that. We're in business class right now trying to button up those loose ends that we were unaware of, so I apologize.
If I could commend you, this being your first hearing, you're doing really well.
Thank you, I'm scared spitless, I need a drink desperately.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. We have some individuals who have requested to speak concerning this item. Okay, just heard from Ms. Fox in support. Kevin Clough.
Good morning. My name's Kevin Clough. My wife and I moved in about 4 years ago to a property that is nearly adjacent. Our house is 5637, just not that one, but the next one to it. And then earlier this year, we did purchase the adjoining property. So no, it would be the one with the acreage right there. Yes. Yeah, so oh. Yeah, that's fine. I think we established where our property is. So roughly we own the 5 acres that are adjacent to that property. As we were reading through the zoning request, it's very broad and not very well defined, especially with respect to events. And so there's no definition really on frequency. I understand the Foxes, want to limit the size, but of course, if zoning goes in, there's, as much as they want to limit, future uses could be whatever. And they've, been good neighbors. We don't want to, and actually we don't really have too much of a problem with bed and breakfast, or in the zoning information it says guest ranch. But the big problem we have is just the noise, the traffic, everything that goes along with an event venue that really isn't conducive to a residential area that is. Our families have been there since the 1800s. We moved there with the idea of preserving the legacy. In fact, we named our holding company Layton Legacy to do just that. We want to preserve the peace and quiet as much as possible in that area. Of course, there's a temple that's close by and other neighbors that are residential neighbors. And as we know, Central is a desirable place to live now, and many families have moved into the area for a long time. The water has restricted the development, but now the water is available on that side of the street. I think there will be more development, and it will be probably higher end homes, and we want to be able to preserve that. So we oppose the zoning change. It just isn't conducive to the environment, and we just want to go on record as stating that. Any questions?
Any commissioners have any questions?
Are you having any trouble with your parking in your area when they have these venues?
Sorry, I didn't.
Are you having any trouble with parking?
Yeah,
cars by you, or?
There will, I mean, certainly they have tried to control the parking on our side of the property. I won't say anything there, but with larger numbers and people who don't know when they're arriving, they're gonna just, park wherever. And so really could be a problem. The highway is noisy, but, you know, towards the evening it settles down, so it is, you know, peaceful in the evening, and if we have, you know, an event firing up or whatever on the weekends, that's just not going to be good for our, not only our residents, but, you know, future development. I just don't think the zoning, as it's stated in the application, is appropriate for this area.
Dave, is the two properties separated by a fence currently?
Yeah, so the two properties that we own, the first one that I mentioned is our primary residence. The second one, we purchased it, we're fixing it up. It has got an old adobe home that's been there for years and years. So it's historic as well.
That's the property that borders the Foxes?
And yes, it's a property.
Is there a fence between the Foxes and that property?
Yes. And it borders the whole length, you know, so there, right now we're using the field, I'm farming that, but, you know, obviously that's not as much of a problem, but it's an open area. So the whole area is open, so yeah, we've got this 30-foot, you know, perimeter, but it probably, the sound travels to 1,000 feet or more. I mean, it's not going to be contained, and there is an open-sided barn that they plan to use, but there's no fencing between it and our property.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Vance Bryce.
Good morning. My name is Vance Bryce. I'm the Executive Director of the Graham County Chamber of Commerce, and I'm pleased to support this zone change for the Foxes today. The Foxes are great members of our business community. They've supported, just this last weekend with the Pima Tri-Community Tri, they let the timer for that race stay there at no cost and donated to that. And they're gonna house Salsa Fest judges from out of county, and they're supporters of the Safford Spring Festival. They housed a mountain biker that filmed all our trails on Mount Graham, and he even filmed their property just because of how beautiful it was. So they're definitely an asset for our tourism mission that we have at the Chamber. And we supported a hotel study that the result was we need immediate need for 2 4-story hotels. And this, I know it's, you know, 15, 20 people, but every bed helps at this point when it comes to tourism, when it comes to places for people to stay. And Karen and LeVar are kind, courteous folks. I know that they're willing to work with people. They're very flexible. They host small businesses. They're at their location and have business meetings for local food producers because their meals are farm-to-table meals, and they're delicious. and you get to meet a lot of small business owners providing meat, you know, microgreens, salads, honeys, breads. It's just pretty incredible what they've got going over there. And they are in the Dream Builder class, which is a small business development center class for Eastern Arizona College. So they are increasing their knowledge on permits and zoning and everything else that comes with running a business, and we're proud of them for that. But I'm just happy representing a over 400 member business organization to support this rezone and to have a great location near to the temple, near to the highway that the community can use. Thank you.
Thank you. Justin and Lori Reed.
I'm Justin. First off, the Foxes are great people. I love what they've done with the home. My ancestors, I am on the Layton side, so I purchased the property right there to the north of them, and I purchased it because it's been in the family forever. On the other side, all that ground has been in the family. So we purchased that property. My concern is not the bed and breakfast. I think the bed and breakfast is a great idea. I think we need places for people to go. VRBO is perfect for that situation. In fact, me and my wife looked at that property before the Foxes bought it, and we both decided that she's probably better capable of putting in the work than we are. So that being said, it's the entertainment side of it that is a concern for me. Again, she has spoken to limiting, and I am grateful to that, the possibility of her limiting, but with a rezone for that entertainment purpose, it leaves it wide open for the next people to come in there. And quite honestly, 2.5 acres for even 70 guests, they don't have the parking for it. The parking is gonna end up being across the front of her property, which is great because she probably has the old zoning set up where she owns to the middle of the road. We probably have the same thing on my side of it. At this point, we'll fence over the front of ours to limit any parking, quite honestly, because we don't want it on our side. That would be my concern. The parking situation, the noise. I don't currently live in that old home there. We've been redoing it for a while, but even we have discussed the ideas of turning it into something that could be rented out when we're not in town. My concern would be the entertainment side of things. To change that zoning long-term, I think you open it up to a lot of stuff there right in the middle of a residential community. I might even suggest maybe a temporary use permit of some kind to get her by with what she is trying to do there right now. I would just have a problem with the long-term rezoning of it. So I'd be opposed to the entertainment side of it, definitely not the bed and breakfast, and definitely not opposed to the Foxes and what they've been doing.
Thank you. LeVar Fox.
Good morning. As you can see, we have some awesome neighbors, and we want to keep it that way. One of my personal reasons, I might need to give a little background here. I'm a combat veteran. I'm 90% disabled. The thing that I like of what we're doing with our property right now is we're supporting as many local businesses as we can. Local farmers, local ranchers. We're being put in touch with them all the time. We've even been approached about possibly hosting a dinner for the Arizona Cattlemen's Association, which will be coming next year. And maybe, perhaps, you know, a temporary permit might be the best for something like that. Being a combat veteran, the reason I bring that up, I need peace and I need quiet too. I can no longer go to fireworks demonstrations that I grew up here going to. The property that we are now possessing belonged to my grandfather, and he was born there. So it does mean a lot to us too. Certain noises I can't deal with, so I understand where my neighbors are coming from on that. We are trying to limit things. We're trying to do the best that we can. When we had that one wedding there earlier this year, that taught us a lot. We were even watching the local wildlife in the area to see how that number affected them, and we didn't like what we saw. So we're definitely trying to improve and trying to learn and trying to grow in those areas. We just like a chance to continue with our American dream. So that's what I want to, I petition you to please pass the zoning change. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Karen Fox, if you'd like to address any of the concerns, any other, typically give an applicant a chance to address any concerns that they have heard, would you care to do that? Whoever was on the app, well, you're both on the application, so either one.
guess I was supposed to introduce myself at first. It says on the paper Frank Fox, that's my first name. Some of you may know my father who was from here. His name is Frank Fox. He's Frank Wayne, I'm Frank LeVar. I went by LeVar my whole life until I went into the military for 28 years, and now I answer to both. So, but yeah, I would really like to try to address any questions that my neighbors had or that you had. I understand I'm supposed to be doing to you. Is there any questions that you have? Because I didn't ask that when I was.
You're willing to limit the amount of cars or people? Is there any way to put that in there, Steve? Is there anywhere on that property to create parking?
Not right now. We have, I think we're down to like 48 pecan trees, and the only place we could put them is in the orchard. We'd have to put an access gate.
I mean, I understand your intent is not to grow this thing and have it, but I understand things get so change, and whatever we do is long-term. I just wondered if there's a way to add it or...
At this point, where we're doing recommendations to the board, you can recommend a stipulation. It would be up to them to actually put it in, but they could, I mean, they can put a stipulation in there, and if it sticks, so if you want to put one in your motion, that would be acceptable. And then,
Mr. Fox, what were you thinking on maximum?
Is there some kind of fire code or anything?
Can we do this together? Is that all right?
It did bring up those questions, and so I did want to, and even when we were putting in smoke alarms, I had contacted, because I thought, are we city, are we county? Who's gonna respond if I'm calling 911, and what does that look like? The maximum number that we wanted, and why we chose a particular number and even volume, is because the age of the house cannot even sustain shakers in the front where there's pecan trees. So it has to be controlled, or it compromises the integrity of the property that had to have a whole new foundation because of squirrels and gophers and all of that. But we were informed that even certain volume and vibration and activity could compromise. And so there's the care for that, but that's... We could put parking in another place. What has never been provided that I've been aware that we've tried to find is a clear definition on that property line with Jolene's, that one little strip where we could offer parking, and we do it for the personal guests that are using the bedrooms. We designated certain parking areas so that visually we would know these are temporary guests, these are event guests, these are this and that, and to address the parking so that they could park perpendicular. I did not understand how far our property went and that yours meets halfway. That was awesome information. I appreciate those thoughts. It impacts us too, and so.
The only problem with the parking that she's referring to is that might only put in like 4 or 5 more cars.
Unless we took out dead orchard trees in the future. The orchard, there's a lot of trees that are compromised. So if we don't have water, what do we do? Pardon?
You said 75 was too many, or you willing?
150 was too many. And so we wanted to keep it within 75 to 150, 150 being the max. And that max was with that possible dinner potential running down the middle of the orchard to offer that. But that would be the max, and that would not be. But again, they're concerned not necessarily about what we're doing, but somebody after us could make up their own rule or not care about the historic nature of the house and build their own, and because of the zoning. So I do hear those fears and concerns. So.
Did we answer those questions?
How many cars can you currently park comfortably?
About 7 on the side.
Are you talking off the street or on the side of the house?
On your property.
On the property, approximately 7.
Oh, more. If you're counting, if we owned from the fence to the middle of the road, so in front of our house could probably also, have easily 12, maybe more vehicles, plus down the side on the inside. So.
Sounds like you'd have to arrange off-site parking with a little shuttle or something for some of the larger.
That's true. That's an idea we hadn't thought of, we hadn't went there.
We did encourage the carpooling and have somebody out there to park them perpendicular, and so we've had learning curves, but we do see that as a problem too, so.
How many outdoor venues did you have this past year?
This past year?
That's a good question. Maybe 4, and they were very minimal. The maximum that we had didn't even reach 70, and we determined that for that location in the back orchard and whatnot, that was too many. An event that we had last year that exceeded, and I think where the parking disaster we saw go down was for a family whose son was opening a mission call and had all his little homies all come in, and they were all ski-womped every which way. And we're like, that was not perpendicular, like we said. So you thought, there's those concerns. If I was a neighbor, I'd be like, that's not okay, especially if it's in front of their driveway, or if it's impeding a farmer, or trying to get to their water, all of that. But we're trying to get to our water too, so we're mindful.
So you're not talking about a lot of events with a lot of noise, like dancing and such like that. You're looking more at a business thing or a...
We do intend for dance, though, for barn dance. We have scheduled for the Allen Matthews family a barn dance family
fundraiser.
That would be noise, and that would be the sound. And while we've been careful now to be conscious of where we redirect it, I understand that the big concern is in zoning change, is the future, if those courtesies aren't taken, or if there's not a sound barrier wall, maybe between those residences and whatnot, but in that open area in the barn where we'd like to have that barn dance, maybe that's where the event permit would be most appropriate, and we didn't know that was available. We'd like to look or get more information on that as well. But that would have blessed our community, and where they couldn't afford those that weren't willing to donate, the venue, it was just trying to plug in that way, but it would be noisy and busy and a lot of cars, so I get it.
Which would be shut off at 10 p.m.
So I was gonna say.
Yeah, the quiet hours and the noise hours, we've respected that. We've had cameras, we've remained on site, and have had employees try to help secure and make sure those things are carried out. But
Thank you for addressing that honestly.
thank you.
Mr. Fox, thank you for your service. And we just approved the Howards out where I live. They have a venue out there in my area. I haven't seen too many problems out there, so think it's a good thing.
Thank you.
Steve, if there's a concern about somebody else coming into the Fox's property, is there a way we could put a conditional on that it wouldn't carry over?
We can't change this to a conditional use permit in this meeting because it was noticed as a zone change, but we could go back and, I mean, we could go through this process again as a conditional use permit, and that is easier to put conditions on, but that's for us to continue and change it at this point. We can't do that.
Put our recommendations.
So maybe table it.
No, I think send it forward and let the supervisors give them what we think.
Yeah.
That limit the size and.
It's a concern.
I think the parking would be.
Very much so. Are you ready for discussion?
And
Yeah, we are ready for, thank you, Mr. Fox. Any other questions for Steve, or Steve, do you have any more comments?
well, we were talking about putting conditions on how many cars or how many people. You can suggest that, and the board could do that, but I don't know how you enforce it, because LeVar will not invite me to all his parties. So.
Because I like the bed breakfast. Yeah. That needs to
I don't
stay.
think that's an issue.
Yeah.
When they have family reunions, I mean, an issue.
People are also looking for places to have reunions and weddings and.
Or just fundraisers or meeting, you know, stuff like that, that's more comfortable. I think there's really a need for venues here, especially not any that's in town, because we have the same parking area with our venue down.
But the difference between the one at the Star Barn is they have
room.
We have room.
So that, you can't, you know.
Because you don't want to put that.
Right.
That's
You
annoying.
don't, no. I think definitely, I'm very much in favor of it, except I would like to put recommendations that they find another way to park, like he suggested, with you know, a shuttle. Because we know there's places in.
They're gonna have RSVPs, they're gonna know what they're dealing with.
Right.
They're gonna be able to make those arrangements, and they will be able to charge accordingly when they see
Yeah,
what they're
they
dealing
would
with.
charge for more, and also for the size of the fee. Because that's not unusual. If you go into a restaurant, they have the size that they're limited to in the restaurant, so.
So they're pretty pro at it. You know, they're serious about it. The one thing is, if we do with the zoning, it's forever, and if they were to sell it someday when they retire, then the next outfit could increase the volume of people, so I think it's fair. They've already spoken to it, that the property only tolerates some set amount of people, and so I think that with a favorable recommendation, it should also be, in my opinion, noted that it needs to have a number, a cap. I don't know what that is, but we could send it up with that, and the
That would have to go back through the process though, wouldn't it, Steve?
Possibly.
Depends what the supervisors.
Yeah, we would let them sort that, but that's a consensus I feel here as well. Most of the other issues can be sorted. You know, parking is certainly, we don't want 50 vehicles, 75 vehicles out on the street, but that can be dealt
Even
with.
15's a lot on that area.
Yeah, but those can be sorted. They know what they're dealing with. But the zoning is permanent, and to protect the neighbors, something as towards a cap of how many people I think is appropriate. How we lay that on, or how the supervisors do that, the supervisors would do that. It's up to them.
They have such a good relationship with their neighbors, you know, that
So if the parking does become an issue, that's where the neighbors.
I think it's an issue.
Yeah, so, I was going to ask, but it's not necessary. You can see that they have good report.
Right.
You know, how many, they've been running for a few years. How many complaints have they had? Probably none. And so they're gonna listen to their neighbors. They can, if county has noise ordinances, 10 o'clock, loud music's going away. Same with some lights. You know, there's other, a lot of overlays already there to control what happens there. But the numbers thing with the zoning, that's not there right now.
But also the neighbors have a right to barbecue where they can hear them.
Yeah. Neighbors, that's the thing. Neighbors could bring in their family, 75 people, and have a barbecue.
Or they could have one at their own home and expect
we're
quiet.
not wanting to get that much control on the neighborhood, but yeah, so.
I know I'm not supposed to speak out, but can I go back up there and say a couple things? Because
We're
listening to what you guys are saying. I'm gonna speak now. But you guys are recommending a zoning change or not. That's really what this is about. The zoning change for entertainment is a permanent. You can't, as a county, from my understanding, limit all those things with that zoning change. So if this is really a question of, are we gonna go through and say, yes, we oppose or we don't oppose this, that's really what the issue is. And at this point, in an entertainment,
we're discussing that amongst the commission, and
thank you.
yeah, you're welcome to listen in. So, there's a few options here. We can let this roll forward, let the supervisors sort it. Foxes could withdraw their petition and then reapply, or they can let it go to a vote of our recommendation, whichever way that goes. There's different. You know, they can't, if we turn this down, if the supervisors turn it down, they can't resubmit for the same zoning for, what, 6 months?
A year.
A year, but they could change their request to a different type of zoning and come back next month.
Communication. The reality of it is, I have no problem with that.
And that's what we're discussing right now, and we'll land somewhere, I promise. Carry on.
So I feel the same way, you know, I mean, I feel like, you know, the board will have to make a decision about like where to put this, and so.
And we are allowed to do those conditions, and also these people, it's their livelihood, and they've been doing it for a couple of years.
And absolutely, we're making a recommendation. We've been overruled both ways before, so it won't surprise me if we recommend something and they go a different direction. So it's just like the system works.
So would it, I'd like to make a motion then, that we pass a favorable recommendation to the board with this, with a note that they look into potential conditions regarding a resale, an occupancy level, and parking for that area right there.
They chose to withdraw.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, you may get some phone calls, because when I have to take that to the board, I'm gonna need some specifics.
Well, I'll show up.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for participation. If you are not willing to stay for the rest of the meeting, you're welcome to leave. Okay, where did I put my glasses? They're on my shirt. They're on my shirt. Okay.
You'll be loved.
That's nice of them to come up and shake his hand.
Okay, item number 8. REZ 909-24, APN 105-51-028, 2.8 acres. A request was made to rezone from A zone general to CM commercial manufacturing. The requester is Ty Hatch. Mr. Hatch would like to move his construction operation to this location. Site address, north of Safford Bryce Road, west of Bentley Drive. Mr. McGoy.
This is actually a piece of ground I thought Ty would rezone before he bought it, but he didn't. This is directly across from, I can't tell you what the name of the pump company is, but there's a lot of industrial type stuff across the street. It's mostly residential on his side of the street, but it is on a main road and a main thoroughfare to Freeport, so that makes it optimal for his purposes, and I'll let him tell you what he intends to do.
I was just gonna build a shop.
Name and address, please.
Oh, Ty Hatch. Yeah, I'm gonna build a shop and have my office out there and fence it off.
Any
It's a
questions?
great idea.
Any questions from the commission?
Hey, Ty, you don't run a type of business where public comes in and out, It's you and your trucks and trailers and equipment.
Yeah, just to
looking
move
for
our
a place to lock them up, looking for a place to sit down, do your paperwork and get away, correct?
Yep.
Understand.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Hatch? Thank you. Nobody has requested to speak to this at all. So.
I make a motion to
Any
move
questions for
forward.
Mr. McGoy at this point?
No.
Okay, any discussion amongst us? You ready?
I'm ready. I make a motion to move forward with the favorable.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hatch. Okay. Item 9, REZ 911-24, APN 105-31-009, 1.5 acres. A request was made to rezone from AR agricultural residential to RM multifamily residential. The requester is Jake McBiles. Mr. McBiles would like to allow for the addition of duplexes on the property. Site address east of Dirt Road, southwest of Safford Bryce Road. Mr. McGoy.
This is I don't know a whole lot about this. It just showed up, and I've never spoken to Mr. McBriles, but as I understand it, he wants the opportunity to build possibly 2 duplexes on the property, as well as take the existing house and possibly remodel it into a duplex. I don't know that to be 100% accurate. That's just what I gathered, and I'll let him come tell you what his plan is.
Good morning. So I'm going to apologize first and foremost for my voice. I am a football Jake McBiles. I am a football coach, so I do yell quite a bit. So it's gone for right now. No, so currently the property that we are asking to rezone, we do currently have renters in the existing home that is stationed there. My plan is not to further develop that into a duplex. It would be to leave that as a single-family home. Really, the intent is to further develop the north end of the property and provide, the intent for right now would be the single duplex with the potential to add a secondary duplex. We feel as though with the community expanding, the mine growing, obviously, the housing has become quite a crunch, right? And I think everybody that's spoken up here has spoke to that. We're right down the road from the mine. We feel like it's a perfect opportunity to provide some houses, decent size homes. We're not talking, 700 square foot homes. We're talking about, potentially having 1,200 square foot, 3-bedroom duplexes. So, that's really what we're after. I know there was a single opposition letter. I do understand some of the concerns around that. And, if you're looking at the property, and I don't know if you can zoom in a little bit, the front entrance of the property itself coming off Safford Road, which is considered the dirt road, to my understanding, up to that first corner of, you can kind of see the breakaway there. Does this work? Yeah. So here, I believe up to that is actually BLM. I could be incorrect. The property I think that's in concern is here down. There is an access road in here that was placed there, that was there when we bought the property. So, by all means, I do understand the concerns that are there from the corresponding neighbors there to the south. The plan would be to fence that off, so we could take access away from there, and the primary road would now be entered in through here. Or also, we've got plans to cut a road in here off Safford Bryce directly, so that we can even avoid traffic completely on the dirt road that's currently there. So that's why we're asking. We just want to try to provide some additional housing for the community. And, we're asking for that recommendation to approve the zoning request. Has anybody got any questions?
That dirt road you're talking about, do you know how many dwellings that services back behind you, or does it?
So currently, there is not a house on the property directly to the south of us that I am aware of. There's no structure there. The only house that I know of that is there is the one that you see. It'd be on the west end of the dirt road here, and this one back in here. This is an open lot right now. There's no houses that exist on this lot.
Does your parcel currently have legal easement on that dirt road?
I don't believe it does on the dirt road. From what we just gathered, I don't think it does.
But you're not opposed to punching out directly on?
Absolutely not. That is definitely, this has always been part of the plan when we bought the property, was to expand that and just provide the access in right there.
Cool. One more question. I'm assuming you're on a well right now. Is that well big enough? Got a big enough pump to supply the duplexes as
So
well?
we have talked about that. The first intent would be to expand that well. We do feel like it's sized well enough to provide the water for that. However, if not, obviously we'd want to provide another well out there because I don't believe that we have current utilities out at that property. I know I've reached out to try to figure out where the current utility line ends, but I don't believe it extends all the way to that end.
How many acres is that property?
So it's, I believe it's 1.64. I know it shows 1.5 there, but I think when on the actual deed it shows 1.64. So if you go back and yeah, and I know you guys seen the maps that I've sent in, but the intent would be to cut this basically in half, essentially, to where you had your duplexes would sit on the front part of the lot to split it out.
Steve, with the 3 buildings, would you be able to get your septics and deep wells in there with all your setbacks being 100 feet apart?
I don't know. Were you supplied with that map we had GIS do that showed the, yeah. The way he's laid it out, it's gonna be tight, but I mean, if you give him the opportunity to do it, then he has to get it worked out, because we're not gonna let him do it if he can't make it fit. So, but this is always that first step, Right. But that's why we had this map created, was so that we knew what we were talking. We don't know where the current septic system is why we didn't plot it on there, or we would have. But he will have to create a septic system. I believe he could do a septic system for both. It would have to be pretty good size, but he will also have to have a reserve area. So if he does 2 septics plus the existing septic, all of them will have to have a reserve area, meaning if the system were to fail, he has to have room to put in another one. So he's going to be tight, but that's part of this entrepreneurial game.
And there's no issue with tying into that, the Central Bryce Road? With the county, there's no...
He owns part of it, so I don't think we could, I mean, I think that would be the best thing for him, is to put his driveway right there where he owns the road.
And again, like I said, that has always been the game plan from the forefront, right? We just purchased the lot. About a month, 2 months, 3 months ago, we got it in place. So, this is just the next step that we wanted to take. If I can expand on that's the reason I say, we're gonna start with 1. If the capability is to not put another duplex on there, then it will just stick to 1. Like, I have no intent on exceeding what our limitations are with regards to the property.
Thank you.
It does sound like that, for the most part, he's satisfied the neighbors. The written complaint we got was about people going out to the south and using Marble Lane and the dust and stuff. And if he limits it to just Safford Bryce Road, then I think the neighborhood, 90% of those complaints go away.
I agree, and that was the reason for my question to start with. I think this is a great project. This is completely opposite of the project we were talking about south of town. There's not people with 2.5 acre developments that was sold a place to build a dream home. I think this is a great project.
Good spot.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Biles. We have one individual that's asked to speak to this, Gary Allred.
Well, Gary Allred. The current zoning out there is agriculture and AR, 1 acre minimums. I think that's very fitting for those of us that live out there to keep that rural and farmhouse feel. Also, the 1 acre minimum addresses the lack of infrastructure that's out there. Not only the lack, but there is no city water, city sewer, Landfield Road, where you go up to the Safford dump is the closest water line that's out there. The other way is towards Pima, and it's out there by the recycling plant. So it's a ways off. Sewer's not even in the works out there. Hearing Mr. McGoy speak about the accessory dwelling units, I feel like this zoning could accommodate a rental unit on the property the way it is currently zoned, by working with the county to do one of those accessory dwelling units on that property and allow the applicant to kind of test the waters with the rental and to meet his setbacks there. It's very tight with the current setbacks with the canal. There are setbacks from the canal on where septic can go with your well. If there's a second well, that's only another 100 feet that completely takes building out of the question. Adding a septic tank will add another secondary, not only the primary septic system, but a secondary reserve area with the primary home. So I oppose the rezone. I'm very for working with the accessory dwelling unit with the county to make that work with the current zoning that's in place.
Clarification, are you within the 300 feet? Are you a property owner?
I am a property owner in that area. 3698, 3702, 3748 are all the properties I own there in that area. So I've tried to purchase my view.
And thank you.
Okay.
Let me just address his accessory dwelling unit thing. That is something that is in municipalities of 40,000 or greater is currently, you can't stop it. It may come here. It currently is not an allowable use here. We allow for mother-in-law's quarters, but it is not rentable. So that is not an option to him today. It may be after the next legislature, but we'll never know until that actually happens. Just to clarify if I misspoke earlier.
Any questions for Mr. McGoy? Let's see. Mr. Biles, would you like to address? Mr. McBiles, would you like to address any of the concerns raised?
I mean, just to further expand, right? I understand the setbacks are tight. You know, the first and foremost thing that we would be doing was be evaluating the existing well that's there to prevent us having to add an additional well, right? I do think I've talked to a few people that are in the well industry that have both recommended that be the first path that we go down, and I do think it's possible. The septic, again, will be evaluated the same way. You know, if we can tie into the existing septic system with some expansion, then that obviously is gonna be my first path forward, not only from, you know, the tightness space, but also just from a cost perspective. So, you know, I do understand the concerns, but at the same time, I do feel like I'm gonna try to work through those concerns to avoid having, you know, everything squeezed as tight as possible, you know, so.
So you understand, even if you get the zoning, you may not be able to do it because of these other problems?
100%.
Thank you. Okay. Discussion amongst the board. Any other questions for Mr. McGoy? Anybody have any thoughts?
I think it's a good project, personally. He's gonna have his challenges if he tries to put the second duplex in there, but that's for him and the powers to be to work out.
Yeah.
If he just does one duplex, does he have to?
Yes.
So just doing one.
Yeah, because he's gonna have to put in two sets of pins.
Anything else?
The current zoning is 1 acre minimum, and he doesn't have two, so he couldn't, and one residence per parcel, so he does not have enough property to make two and put a second.
And they could definitely fit another duplex on it.
His drawing shows he's got room for both of them. That's.
I was kind of under the understanding that you had to have a separate septic tank for each duplex.
That's
think
another
health
one of those
department-
things that the rules change every time I turn around, so I
Every
don't.
time I go to the health department on something like
That'd be
that.
whatever current code is.
Yeah, so that could be a problem, but
If they were on separate parcels, yes, they would have to have separate septics, but if they're zone multi, even Janet Alder's situation could have two sixplexes on a single septic, as long as they're on the same property, as I understand it. And I've been wrong before, so this may not be the last time.
Okay, call for the question.
I make a motion, make a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
We got 3 more. You guys want a 5-minute break?
Yes.
All right,
I need
5-minute
it.
break. Yep, 5-minute break.
let me call my boss. There's water out there. So let me look at this. 3 more, Trev. I'm actually gonna call him. Hey, what'd you need?
A little louder, Alvin. We got you on speaker.
It might be up there at Graham's house. I didn't see where he took it apart. It might be, sorry, I was in a meeting, that's why I didn't call you. It might be up at the house. I don't know. Graham took it apart. Yeah. Yeah, you might go up there and look and ask him. Yeah, that'd be, yeah, no. All right, sorry I didn't call you sooner. Okay, all right, okay, bye. Okay, bye.
Hello, Mr. Mack, this is Sylvia at the Boys and Girls Club.
Why am I still getting calls from the Boys and Girls Club? Done with you.
Done.
Done.
I'm gonna actually call my boss and let him know I've still got 3 more items. Hey, sorry this is taking so long. I've still got 3 more items to go
Hello,
through.
Mr. Mac, this is Sylvia at the Boys and Girls Club.
I
I'm
know
just
it.
following
That's
up
what
with
I'm
the-
like crap. Anyways, I'll hurry back as soon as I get through these other 3. They had to take a 5-minute break because a couple of the board members had to go pee. All right, you doing all right? I didn't do a fecal yet. All right, thanks. All right, I'll hurry back as soon as I can. All right, thanks. Okay, bye. I didn't take a fecal test. You need to go run one.
From my reading,
Dropped all these paper clips down here.
It would be like somebody taking one of the. Even though her
was not even.
but you know what I'm saying, it wasn't part of that
Hello, Mr.
development,
Mac,
but it
this
was
is Sylvia
still
at the Boys
got
and
stuck
Girls
in that zone. This one, just general ag, no zoning, no expectation of everything done in zone residential. And to me, that's where we, yeah, I'm wrong, that's where they take all these other things. You have a piece of property, and you see, oh.
Hey, I can hang.
Could be a long tree.
Right.
Oh, wait a minute, and I've already spent all this.
So you're part of the swaps that has a construction company?
Yeah, that's my family.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Originated out of Boone?
Yeah, that's where we whenever started. My dad started it up there.
Is that right?
Yeah, and then he started up there, and then now he's kind of I don't know if tired is the right word, but anyways, but he spends most of his time up there, and my sister and I run it down here in Marinton and stuff. Yes, sir. Have you heard of us? What do you do?
Oh, well, I worked for PD from 93 till 2000.
Oh, okay.
Prior to that, I did excavation work for James Hamilton.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the late 80s. And also equipment stayed in my blood my whole life.
I hear you now.
I actually quit PD in 2000 and got into the real estate game. 2000. Just a small town. Yeah, you hear the contractors that do the work and stuff.
What do you do now? Do you build houses, or do you still do real estate?
Yeah, we do when you're in a small community, you doesn't touch everything.
It's like it all changes, you know.
You can't find somebody that should just beat it out real estate. You gotta kind of do it all in those whatever.
Okay, we ready? We all back?
That's what we do. You know, if we don't want to move around, you know, we have to kind of.
Court's back in session. It's good having you guys here, man. You guys are all
Okay, we'll resume.
a lot of friends.
We'll make it back, yes.
Here it comes, one more.
Okay, I didn't see
Takes
an
him a
empty
little
chair.
longer.
I should have said something.
My father called me 3 times and he texts me and says, Virginia does an emergency.
Okay,
For this world.
item number 10, REZ 912-24, APN 105-44-038, 1.5 acres. APN 105-44-167, 0.63 acres. And APN 105-44-166, 0.01 acres. A request was made to rezone from A General to AR 30,000 square feet, agricultural residential. The requester is Larry Walders. Mr. Walders would like to rezone to reconfigure the existing parcels to make room for his son. Mr. Walters is asking for 30,000 square foot minimum. Site address is 5227 West Coombs Street, north of Central Road, east of Bigler Avenue. Mr. McGoy.
I'm going to give you a short history lesson on this, and then We'll go on. This property is, that is 3 properties. And this piece right here that is not part of that. Originally, here was the deal. Mr. Walters went to a surveyor and said, I want to get my property lines in order, and then I want to split it so both my kids can have a piece. And he knew that there was 3 acres inside his fence, and that would have worked, but one of the neighbors did not give. So that, if you could blow, or, well, that's his fence, but that's part of this field according to the legal description. So rather than quit on this, and rather than allow for additional splits, because in Central, they like 1 acre lots. What I advised him to ask for is a zone size that, if given, he can't get 4 splits out of it. He can only get 3, and that was his original intention. So that both his boys can live next to him, and if he wants to come talk to all that, he's more than welcome to. But that is the intention, is to give him a zoning which will allow him to split it so that he can live in this house, if I'm not mistaken. One of his sons can live in this one, and another son can put one down here. And they'll each have their own parcel, because in order to do that, I think there's some financing involved that can't go on a group parcel. If I've left anything out, tell me. That sound like most of it? Okay. And if you want to come talk, please feel free.
Okay.
Why can't they all live in the same house?
There you go.
I hear you.
Okay, there is no requests to speak towards this item. Mr. McGoy has explained it. Is there any questions from the commission?
How long's that fence been in place? Were your neighbors fighting you?
5 years of that.
You ever heard of eminent domain?
I can't hear very good.
That's what
Mr. Thiessen explored that possibility and said it was probably more money than it was worth to go get that if we could do this. So that's where we're at.
Okay. Any other questions?
I make a motion to move forward with a favorable recommendation.
I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Record time.
Yes.
Thank you for yours.
Thanks
Should
for
have
your
done that.
patience.
We should have done that one first.
Yeah.
I know. If I'd have had to juggle all this, I'd been lost the rest of the day. I apologize. Okay, item number 11. REZ 913-24, APN 105-44-001, 19 acres. A request was made to rezone from A General to RM Multifamily Residential. The requester is Matt Sherwood. Mr. Sherwood would like to build multiple multifamily homes. Site address: a split on this land has been approved and has not yet been given a new parcel number. It has one now. This rezone only speaks to the let me read that again. This rezone only speaks to the 2.9 acres north of the canal, south of Norton Road, east of Clough Avenue. Oh, there it is. This now has a parcel number of 105-44-172. Mr. McGoy.
And that kind of wraps it up. He would like to build multifamily, I believe, apartments. He also owns across the canal, but he's looking at single-family housing over there. And Matt, come tell him what you want to do, because I'm pretty sure you and Mark know more about it than I do.
Okay, so my name is Matt Sherwood. I live in Pima, Arizona, and has already been stated several times, there is a huge demand for housing, for multifamily housings. I don't know really the differentiation between apartments and like fourplexes. So to me, apartments are multi-level. I just want to be able to build some fourplexes on there. I think it's a great location. I went out there and mapped it. It's 3 miles to Pima High School. It's 3 miles to Thatcher High School. It's 8-point-something miles to the mine, right on Norton Road there. So for that reason, I think it's a great location. There's already some rezoning of multifamily in Central. With the exact same zoning that I'm asking for, 2.9 acres. There's plenty of room in there that we would have plenty of room for parking. It does face right on Norton Road, so there's easy access right there, whether you're going to, towards Pima, towards Thatcher, or to the mine. There's zoning right across the road there is, if I have my terminology right, is MX zoning. So it's still really rural, so I feel like it's a great time right now to apply for the rezone. There's a lot of work to be done to get utilities and stuff there to make it even possible, but I'd rather apply right now than down the road.
Questions from the commission?
How far are the utilities from you currently?
I am 1,500 feet from water, and there is power. There is power on Norton Road, so there's power right there. But I'm a long ways from water, and I have to. Water is to the west, and so to get water to that, I'd have to run a 6-inch water line and cross that canal. So we might have to explore putting a well in. Like there's a couple of options that we've already explored, but. There's water. If you come all the way here we're 300 feet. If you come on the other corner, we're 300 feet. So then we would have to run water line all the way down Clough, or come from that way towards Norton. So right now we're looking at hopefully developing this. We're gonna bring a water line either possibly here and then here. So we would have to continue it all the way down across the canal. Or it's 750 feet here, we would have to come down and cross the canal. So this is, this is down the road a little ways, but I just wanted to apply for it now. It would be easier.
How about sewer? Is sewer in the vicinity, or
no, sir?
Be septic?
No, I've looked into that, and hopefully in future they'll bring, speaking for other people, bring sewer all the way down and go to the treatment plant. But right now there is no sewer anywhere.
Any other questions? Thank you. We have one individual wishing to speak to this item, Mr. Lon Whitmer.
And while he's coming, I'll just say that Thatcher Sewer Ponds is uphill from Mr. Sherwood's property, so it would have to be pumped. It's not impossible, but it's not going to flow downhill.
My name's Lon Whitmer. I live in Central at 5291 West Norton Road. We have interest in the property next door to this, and I tried to buy my view as well.
Where's your property located to this lawn?
Right adjacent to the, that right there. And then I have the other 2 lots there and there. I don't have any more power to purchase my view at this point.
Okay.
Central's always been a community of agriculture. 1 acre lots has been that way for over 100 years. And introducing an RM zone it's going to destroy the way of life that I not only inherited but purchased as well. The lots just directly south of him will eventually be 16 single-family dwellings. It'll all be perfectly legal, no requirement for rezoning, none of that. That corner will become very congested because Elmer Estates, all their people roll down that way, and not all of them stop at the stop sign. I know you might find that interesting. And that's going to cause a real congestion problem in that area. I can't say I always get threatened with being rear-ended by somebody not watching, but it does happen. I did submit a statement, so I won't really beat that sucker to death, but I will mention that they do haul hazardous material down that road. Anywhere from 75 to 150 acid trucks a day, 300 commercial vehicles a day. I just don't see the reason that we would need a multi-family zoning there. Like the people out there on south of town, all of those reasons apply in this area as well. As far as crime from multi-family dwellings, it happens a lot. We've experienced it with people who have brought in transient guests into the area as well. Traffic has been a major issue. We explored something in traffic, a business, and we were told that it would create a traffic hazard, increased crime. Let me see. The MX zone that's directly across the street is 250 acres, and they can put in anything from a pig farm to an acid plant to any large multi-industrial complex, and it all fits within the zoning. Between the A zone and the MX zone, an RM zone is just totally incompatible for the area. What else? The rule of thumb has been that it's been a 1 acre per for the longest time. And we had issues a few years back, and we were cited historical that 1 acres were 1 acre lot. Well, historically things were allowed because we've done it for so long, we can't deny it now. And I would not like to be denied the 1 acre restriction. That lot will support 3 houses. Granted, it's only 2.9, but I would be more than willing to give my blessing to it if it would be required for a variance for 1/10 of an acre. For 3 single-family lots, there's still profit in it for the investor. It's legal. And that's pretty much it. Are there any questions?
Does anybody have any other questions? Guess not. Thank you.
I do have one question, though.
Yes.
My neighbors who don't live within 300 feet, are they allowed to speak at these meetings?
Anybody can speak at the meeting. It's a public meeting. Anybody, talking about
Okay.
specific properties that are part of community.
Okay, just curious, there's,
We wait, or, you know, we weight things according to, you know, direct impact, 300 feet versus, you know. I mean,
Understand.
you know, they don't, you know, but they are still part of a community. and
well,
part
they
of
were a
this
little
county.
upset that I got the letter and they didn't, so.
Okay,
Good
thank
to
you.
know. You folks have a good day.
Thank you.
In reference to them getting the letter, or him getting the letter and them not, that is why we post the property and put it in the newspaper, so that people that don't live in the 300 feet radius also do have the opportunity to be notified if they choose to. I mean,
Like, Mr. Sherwood, would you like an opportunity to address any of the concerns?
One thing that was brought up is there's no multifamily in Central, and there is one piece that's less than a mile from there that's already rezoned multifamily. So I think that's, you know, and I feel like this piece, I was part of the 16 acres right there to the south that we didn't apply for, because I don't think that's a good fit for multifamily. But this piece, that canal is a huge canal. It has a barrier, it has a road on one side and MX on the other side. So I felt like that was a great piece to rezone multifamily where we do need it. It's on the road. And the cost of bringing utilities to that piece of property is going to be so astronomical that something like this would be needed to justify what it's going to cost to bring all the utilities. So just those simple things.
Thank you. Commission, do you have any other questions for Mr. McGoy or Mr. Sherwood?
I got a question, Mr. Sherwood. You got any kind of proposal, how many units will fit there? Has there been any light studies done yet?
No, sir. I did have someone draw that plan up there just to kind of show what it would look like sitting on there. And I think there's five units, and I think there could be one more right here. So I think there could be 6 fourplexes right there really easily, and still allow tons of parking, tons of room, you know, that would not be crowded on 2.9 acres at all, and we could have a nice road accessing Norton that wouldn't, you know, I don't feel like it would cause any traffic situations at all.
Anything else?
This is for Mr. McGoy.
Okay.
So that road, Norton Road, is definitely, as Mr. Whitmer said, has a lot of acid trucks, a lot of vehicles that are heavy on that road. Do you ever see them expanding that road, or the safety issue on Norton Road?
I
don't know why they can't allow or make those trucks go on a highway.
Well, that has been explored quite a bit over the last 5 years, I'm going to say, maybe longer. And the expert on that situation is in the room, so if you want to hear from the county engineer, he's sitting here, but I know that would probably, I think right about there's a speed limit change that might be restudied and changed, but they've looked into moving that road and not got any help from the people who own the property where they wanted to put it. So I don't know, but Michael, if you want to speak to that, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
Well, go ahead if you have any
input on that.
I don't know that there's an alternate route.
Could they put up a restricted area on that road to where they don't use that road?
No, the other roads have the same problems.
Same problem.
And the long-term solution, which has been being talked about for more than 20 years is rail to the mine. But that is also, you know, then they'll have it on rail, but there's, you know, that's years away, and there's other obstacles even to that.
Yeah.
So right now, that's where they go.
The bright side of that is from this point where he's working, you have a really good sight distance. So if you pull out in front of one of them, you did this to yourself, but
yeah,
that's probably no.
I don't know, sometimes they pull out in front of me.
Okay, thank you. Any other question for Mr. McCoy? I view this as, you know, it's got the MX right across the street there. It's on that main road that has a lot of truck traffic. I view this as kind of a buffer between all of that and what is to come, you know, on the other side of it. It's not a bad buffer.
Let me throw one more thing in there just because I thought about it. The MX zoning, and I don't have the exact wording in front of me, but existing MX zoning requires that residential, I think it's residential, has to, in order to come in there, they have to write that MX zone an easement, meaning even though the MX is used to farm right now, if they decide to farm hogs and it stinks, Mr. Sherwood will have to write I know that about the property across the street letter and give it to Mr. Daly in order to get his permit.
What's that? Is that the radius we're looking at?
Yeah, half-mile radius.
So that's already been way blown up with all that other housing. That MX
Yeah, right.
was
That's
compromised way back up.
that's something we just realized the other day, that it's not being done, but that came from Mr. Whitmer's letter. I started looking into it and found that, and going forward, that will have to happen.
Can you say that one more time, what would have to take place?
I wish I had printed that and brought it with me.
Well, first, hang on.
There has to be an odor easement on your deed that says if the people with the MX ground across the street put in something that stinks, you knew it could happen when you bought here. But if you're gonna rent those out, then it's on you. Does that make sense?
But that, if I'm not mistaken, that easement, that MX, because of the other homes in the region within that half a mile, is already gonna push the viable MX way up into that property?
No, the easement is, the MX was first, they get their rights first.
Well, but I'm talking about the existing homes that have not done that.
Those are not zoned residential, they're zoned A. They don't, that doesn't apply to them.
That doesn't trigger that?
No, if he zones to residential, a density, the density's triggering it.
Okay. So
But the
A
rest of
doesn't trigger
rest
it.
of those are A zone, they're not, that doesn't trigger. And I got some more studying to do, but I got a whole lot of more studying to do on a whole lot of things, so that's gonna be a minute.
Okay. Any other questions?
Steve, based on the amount of units that would go in there and being a small 2-lane road, would there have to be a traffic study performed before there's ever permits issued to put multifamily in there?
I'm gonna defer to the engineer again.
They would do.
I don't think so. I know of a situation where that was not required because of the.
ADOT? Okay.
I don't think so, but if he nods his head a different way, we'll go a different way.
Typically, that's just highway work.
I don't think it has the traffic count going in and out to require it.
Any other questions? Discussion amongst the commission?
I can appreciate what we're trying to do with multifamily housing, but again, high res, low res. This is a really rough spot to put that many. Norton Road, you know, yes, you can watch trucks come by, time it, that kind of thing, but still, that's a lot of lot going on in that little road. You know, something that big, you would think you'd want more infrastructure in place already.
It's a county road. I mean, that's as much infrastructure as you get out there.
Same as Party Lane.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It's same as every other county road, and, you
Our
know,
engineer made wider roads would be better.
And to add to that too, you know, that railroad that goes into the Safford mine is gonna make a huge impact to the truck traffic down these roads, Norton Lane, Barney, you know, a bunch of these, so, you know, that could help relieve some of that in the future, and this is just doesn't sound like he's about to build it tomorrow, you know, this is something that might come in the future, so. Being next to that MX, this might not be a bad place to put it.
any other comments? Call for the question.
I make a favorable motion. Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? One opposed. Thank you, motion carries.
I'll need to excuse myself on this next.
Okay, recuse.
You're out of here then. So what, are you leaving?
You want to typically just go sit in the audience? Okay.
Are you
I don't think you
speaking?
get out of the chair, right?
Okay, item number 12, REZ 914-24, APN 106-28-083, 106-28-082, 106-28-084, 7.6 acres, 7.5 acres, 12.2 acres. A request was made to rezone to SD Special Development from SD Special Development to AR3, Agricultural Residential. The requester is Vladimir Illick. The power of attorneys from other landowners, with power of attorneys from other landowners. Mr. Illick would like to be able to pull permits and develop this land with 3-acre minimums. Site address is east of Stockton Road. Sonoran Skies Road runs south past these parcels. Mr. McGoy.
You guys heard this previously, a couple months back, with a 2-acre minimum, and it failed at the board level. It was because, I'm not sure what it was because, but it had to do with the subdivision to the south of it being 3 and 4 acre parcels. They didn't want to put 2-acre parcels up against them. So Mr. Illick went back to the drawing board, and he and his neighbors really don't think they wanted to go that far anyway. They want their space, so this is back before you with a 3-acre minimum. And the other difference, the other reason that it failed, and I don't think it should have, but it was because the road out of that subdivision goes through this property and was not brought up to the county standard, but nor was the subdivision. I mean, it's their own, they're doing their own, you remember, they're doing their own private streets, and they're taking care of their own stuff. But when I found, and I should have known this at the time, and I did know it, I just couldn't recall it in the moment and get it spit out when that objection came up. But we cannot require any, in a land split, we cannot require more than a 24-foot easement traversable in a 2-wheel drive vehicle. So if we require that this road be brought up to a certain standard, 25 feet wide or bigger and a certain thing, we as the county have to maintain it. Therefore, we can't require that except in the subdivision, except in the in the zoning that he's trying to get out of. So that's part of why he's trying to get out of that, so he doesn't have to build a subdivision next door to him, an exit route where they'll drive in front of his house. So I'll let Vladimir come tell you whatever he has in his head that he thinks he can con you into believing, and no, I'm kidding. Add to that as you may.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Vladimir Illich. If it's morning still, maybe it's afternoon. I just want to point out that I have my neighbors, the owners of other 2 properties adjacent to mine in the audience, Sergey and Steven. Like Steve was mentioning, we would like to change the zoning from special development to AR3 for the purpose of building single-family homes. It would expedite, on one hand, our permit process. On the other hand, it will lessen your workload, because having every single parcel that results from this piece of land go through 90 to 100-day cycle of special approval would be taxing as far as your resources are concerned. Now, for what Steve was mentioning earlier, as far as the road, I just want to point out that it's not their road. It's a secondary mean of egress-ingress for the LLC south of us, but it's not their primary road. Their road is further south, and it's been developed. And then I'll add to that our road, which is Acacia Avenue, sort of towards the north there, has been developed to the standards given to us by Steve and other county officials. We've had an unofficial meeting and discussion with them, and they have agreed to our informal proposal, and the road has been developed to that standard. It's traversable by a 2-wheel powered vehicle. And we are keeping the population density to 3-acre minimum, which was our intention from the get-go. I think there was a little bit of a confusion with 2-acre minimum last time. We're not interested in having small properties. We want some elbow room there. And that's pretty much all there is. Are there any questions for me?
No questions?
So with the board last time, it was regards to the road Antelope Lane. Is that what I'm seeing from here? Is that it was the Acacia Road that was what the board was concerned with? And so we're looking at maybe potentially 9 lots, 9 homes. Is that what?
We're looking at it's about what is it? 27 acres, so we're potentially about 9.
Yeah, 27, 5 by 3, 9, yeah.
Actually, probably fewer than that, because there are lots that are 7.5 acres, cannot be split down to 3. So we're looking at maximum of 8.
I'm not sure why all right, the first time it went through and the board denied it, what was the change again?
From 2 acres.
What changed to where we could visit this again?
They were asking for 2 acres, and now they're asking for 3.
Bigger lot sizes.
Bigger lots.
All right, that's the only
Conducive
change.
to the surrounding neighborhood.
The smallest lot in the subdivision to the south is 3 acres. There's some 4-acre lots. And one of the supervisors didn't want to create lots that were smaller than what was in the subdivision. And their access is the emergency access or emergency exit for the subdivision if their other road were to be blocked for some reason. And one of the supervisors thought that it should be the same standard that the subdivision built, but that's not what the law says. So that's the two main differences, and we should have let him tell you all of that because he speaks better than I do.
All right.
I would disagree with that, but I did not attend that meeting at that time. Otherwise, the question would have been answered most likely.
Any other questions?
I don't have a problem with it.
Call for the question.
I make a motion, we send a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Steve, old business.
I got some paper clips here.
My stomach's saying it's somewhere close to noon, isn't it?
Okay, we had 3 items on the last go-around, and
Hearing. Nothing to be set up for public hearing.
nothing to be set up. So, kind of weird. I wish we could have done 4 today and 5 next time or something, but
It's all right, overtime.
then we'll make up for it the next month. We'll do a bunch of them again. The board took the rezone request from Philip Palmer, and if I'm not mistaken, you guys
Denied it. They approved it.
went against it, and they approved it with the
I wanted to prove it. You guys.
with the stipulation, he offered, and I think he may have offered here, to bring in a deed restriction that says I'll just do one duplex on there. I won't make a bunch of sixplexes or anything. I won't get bigger than that. And once that gets to us and is recorded, then he will get that zoning. So that's where that one ended up. So that parcel will probably have a duplex on it at some point. The next one that was Jason and Stephanie Howard, the Howards just wanted to come into compliance, and that flew well for the Star Barn. And then the request for Joseph Kennedy on his, well, he asked for RMH once to do a travel trailer park in San Jose. Then he came back and asked for a zoning that would allow him to do tents and camping and a multitude of things. And he withdrew that at the last minute so that he did not get a ruling on it. He withdrew so he doesn't have to wait a year to come back with a better plan or an answer to the questions. But it was probably, I mean, it looked to me like it was fixing to get a no. So he had talked to me about it previously. He said, you just stand up there, and when it's time to say I withdraw, just tell me. And they got ready to vote, and I said, now's the time. He withdrew. So that's where that one's at. And that's all I got.
Okay. Thank you. That was a doozy, Commission. We haven't had one of these in 6 years.
Made it, though.
Hopefully last.
Appreciate you being here. Is there any other comments from the Commission? All right, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for finishing it up on time, because Mark told me that if we weren't adjourned by 12 o'clock, I was buying pizza.
Mark never misses a meal. He was probably watching.
Yeah, he said, nah.
He knows.
That's why he has to wait a year to reapply because he's got to have something.
Well, thank you, Kay.
I was against the one in Central.
Hey, thanks, Matt. It was good seeing you.
I'm concerned about the traffic.